So in this video, guys, we're going to talk about two comments that were made, very important comments in the last video, the Valthar Tactical Tomahawk. So welcome to Shed Talk. Maybe we'll do this once a week. I don't know. I'll come out here in the shed late at night and do this. Maybe. We'll see. These two comments are really important. The first one we're going to talk about was basically challenging everything about this channel, challenging me, challenging my review critiques, challenging everything. And we'll get into it. And the second comment made a lot of sense. And it's something that I want to bring to you guys. And this is what's great about this channel, about doing YouTube and throwing axes and doing this, is because I may not review every axe that you like. Heck, I might review axes that you're like, Wes, why are you even reviewing that? But I will say this. I have found that a lot of times it brings up other things where I'll do a review on a really cheap axe, but it brings up other subjects. People get to talking and we learn a lot about maybe other axes, or even maybe something that you've experienced or I experienced that would never have gotten brought up if we hadn't done a review on that axe. So let's get into the video. So the first comment we're going to address is the one that kind of challenges this entire channel and everything that we do here. In a sense, it's a little snarky, but I'm going to come back at Devin Brooks here, and I'm going to give him my opinion and what I think about his comment and what I do here on the channel. We're going to go line by line because it's a pretty long comment. So here it is. It's a tactical tomahawk, not a hammer-like tool meant for heavy use. I'd hate to tell you this, man, but most of your tactical tomahawks are made for heavy use. Most of them have pry bars down at the bottom or a glass breaker at the knob. They're usually made of all steel, so you can beat the hell out of them. Most of the tactical tomahawks I've done reviews on that have held up have taken a ton of abuse, and they keep on ticking. So I would have to completely disagree with what your perception of a tactical tomahawk is. Usually most people think tactical, they think something robust that's going to hold up. Now, if you want to say that the Valthar is made with a glass-filled nylon handle and it's not going to hold up, yeah, you're right. And we proved that with the very first Tactical Tomahawk 2 that it didn't hold up. But to say that a Tactical Tomahawk isn't made for heavy use, sorry man, it's an axe. It's supposed to be used heavy. That's what they're designed for, especially tactically. Tactical can mean many things. In the case of an axe, it can mean lightweight, versatile. It doesn't mean durable. I don't know what axe you're using that's not durable, and I don't know of any SF guys or special operations guys or any of them, even there's a very small window that actually used tomahawks in combat that would take a glass-filled nylon handle into combat or into a combat zone and use it. You're going to want something that's durable, which is why most of them, your Winklers, your RMJ Tacticals, your Tops knives, are all steel, because they're extremely durable. So I have to completely disagree with you on that one too, man. To me, that doesn't make sense. Who wants an axe that's not durable? I completely agree with your statement when you said tactical can mean many things. And you're exactly right. But I just don't agree that an axe shouldn't be durable or doesn't need to be durable if it's considered tactical. I'm sorry, man. I just don't see where you're coming from there. Just because they say you can throw it doesn't mean it will take abuse, especially if you miss and it lands on a rock. Completely agree with you. I've done many of axes, hatchets, and tomahawks that were designed for axe throwing that couldn't take abuse, which is why I do these reviews, because I show you guys which ones take abuse and which ones don't. So thanks for proving my point in that comment there. You want durable? That's going to add weight or cost. No, that's not true. I've done plenty of reviews on axes that weighed less than the Valthar Tactical Tomahawk, and in some cases cost less than the Valthar, and they performed my test just fine. They worked really well, and I even gave them away as free giveaways, and people are still throwing them. So to say that in order to be tactical, you have to go expensive or you have to add weight, that's not true. You could go back into my playlist and look at all the reviews that I've done, which are exactly the same for every axe, and see all the ones that performed better than the Valthar that weighed less and even cost less. I agree that durable materials are expensive. Of course they are. But in some cases, it just depends on how you design it and how you make it. Just because something doesn't have an expensive or durable material on it doesn't mean that it's not designed well and made well. There's plenty of axes, hatchets, and tomahawks out there that aren't expensive, that do the job, that hold up, and they're just made of quality. They don't have to be $500 to be used durably, hardcore, smash it around, and it still continues to perform. And I've proven that over the 3 years I've been on social media. If I had a tactical tomahawk, my main concern would be weight and versatility, how effective it is short term. Yeah, I agree with you. That's probably why most people don't use tactical tomahawks and they use some type of knife when they go into a combat zone. You don't really hear very many people using tactical tomahawks because the weight doesn't justify the use in a combat zone. And finally, we make our way down to the very bottom section of the comment, which is what I really want to address. Here we are. Can I throw it against trees a bunch of times and or it land on the ground a bunch of times? Will it survive? No. No? Well, that makes sense because it's a tactical tomahawk, not a hammer, not a throwing axe. Want a throwing axe? Get a throwing axe. Want a tactical tomahawk? Get one. But don't expect it to do what it's not designed to do. Ho, 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 ho. You guys know that I was licking my chops when I read that. Can I throw it against a tree a bunch of times or on the ground? No, it's a tactical tomahawk. You should get a throwing axe. And then says something at the very bottom about get an axe that's designed for something. Well, here, Devin, and anyone else out there, let me help you out here. This is a dedicated throwing axe. This is not. Now, when you're talking about tactical tomahawks, does it really matter? What are tactical tomahawks made of? They're made of wood, they're made of polypropylene, they're made of glass-filled nylon, they're made of all kinds of different material, all steel. Last time I checked, so are throwing axes, and so are chopping axes, and so are splitting axes. They're all made similarly. Here we have a dedicated throwing axe. Here we don't. Oddly enough, though, they both have wooden handles and a steel axe head and are both traditionally hafted. So what makes this different than this? Nothing. So to say to get it, you should just get a throwing axe to survive all that abuse because a tactical tomahawk doesn't, makes no sense. When you look at the way that tactical tomahawks are made, all steel. Okay, I'll give you that. So let's talk about all steel because tactical tomahawks are made of all steel, right? At least some of them are. Here we are. We have the Smith & Wesson Extraction and Evasion Axe that's made all steel. You say, this will not take abuse, so get this. Nah. I'm taking all steel over wood in a combat zone. This will break. This more than likely will not. Design-wise, yes. This is made for chopping. This is a bushcraft hatchet. But you can fucking throw it. And I beat the shit out of this, and you guys saw the review on it, where I beat the hell out of it. And it worked. And it's not even designed for axe throwing. It's not even a tactical tomahawk. It's a regular old chopping hatchet. And I put this thing through crazy abuse, and it worked. The Bad Axe from the World Axethrowing League. This thing was great too. Flies really well. Now it does have a very thin cheek and bit design because it's not designed for chopping, but it can still be thrown. Now, who's to say this one's going to take more abuse than this one because it's a throwing axe? That is the dumbest thing. I'm sorry, Devin, I'm not trying to be rude. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That has nothing to do with anything. The wood in this handle can be the exact same wood in this handle or vice versa. You throw them and they both hold up. This one might have some issues. This one doesn't, whatever. To say that this one's going to take abuse because it's called a throwing axe, that's the whole point of me doing the reviews and doing what I do here on this channel. I tell you guys all the time that just because an axe isn't designed for axe throwing doesn't mean that it's not going to be a great flyer and it's not going to take abuse. To say that a tactical tomahawk isn't made to take abuse, but a throwing axe is, just tells me, man, I think you need to do a little bit more research. Remember, what are tactical tomahawks for the most part? What are they made of? And I'm not talking about the Valthers, the glass-filled nylon ones that don't work. No one's going to use those in combat. Nobody's going to use those seriously. They're just not. No one's going to take a glass-filled nylon handle out and use it seriously. They just won't. But when we're talking about people that are going to use these seriously like you are, what are they made of? all steel, right? They're all steel hatchets, tomahawks, whatever. Some are wood. You do have some wood ones like the ones from Vietnam, you know, the unconformed reports of them using the Model 1. You got polypropylene, all those type of handles. Same handles they use on Tactical Tomahawks. Same handles they use on throwing axes. Same handles they use on chopping axes. Same handles they use on splitting axes. Steel types might be a little different, but they're steel. In reality, think about it. If I take an all steel axe that's designed for axe throwing, and I take a Tactical Tomahawk that's all steel, that's not designed for axe throwing, and I go outside and throw it, which one's going to survive? If your mindset goes, well, the company said that it's designed for axe throwing, that one's going to hold up more. Well, I've proven here on this channel that is completely false. I've taken axes, hatchets, and tomahawks that weren't designed for axe throwing, and they've worked better than dedicated throwing axes, right? You guys have seen that over the past 3 years. And I've got a slew of axes sitting right here that I'd be more than happy to show you. Now, you put the comment into the Walther video, so we're going to talk about this one. The reason why I got a little upset in that video why this broke wasn't so much about the handle. It was really about the spike, the steel breaking, and the collar not doing its job. But wait, isn't there another one? Oh, that's right, the SOG Voodoo Hawk Mini with a glass-filled nylon handle with a collar. Didn't break, nor did the spike break. So here we are. This one's actually lighter, better designed, better quality. And it did everything I asked it to do, and I even put it through a torture test, and it did its job. That Walther didn't, because it's poorly made. That has nothing to do with glass-filled nylon at this point. This has got nothing to do with what's tactical and what isn't. We're just talking about durability, construction, and quality. And some of these are made of quality and some are not, which is why I do these reviews. Now, you could say that my axe throwing is putting stress on an axe way more than anything else would, maybe than an overstrike would. And I agree with you. Some of these weren't designed for axe throwing. Of course not, because of the bit and cheek design. But I've proven over and over and over again that just because it's not labeled a throwing axe doesn't mean that it can't be thrown. And any axe that is made of good or great quality should be able to be thrown to a certain extent. Now, you could say that wooden handled axes could make great choppers, but if you throw them, they might break instantly. I agree with that statement. You can have a great chopping axe, throw it one time, and it could break because of the wooden handle. And that's totally true. And in my reviews, I've always said that, right? I've never come down hardcore on an axe because the wooden handle broke. Now, if it broke because of me, I come out and admit it, hey, it was me. But we never know what an axe handle is going to do, especially a wooden axe handle. You don't have an x-ray to see what's going on inside. We have things that tell us what an axe handle is going to do. You know, density, grain runout, grain orientation are usually pretty good signs of what an axe handle is going to do and if it's going to be somewhat of quality. But as far as all steel and polypropylene and all that, those are handmade. If we have issues with those, it's because of QC or because someone didn't do what they were supposed to do when they constructed the axe, hatchet, or tomahawk. The cold steel Warhawk and Trench Hawk, not made for axe throwing, cheaper than Walther, and made with polypropylene handles. And guess what? Spikes held up, everything held up. 2 videos worth. Beat the hell out of them, they're still ticking. The Walmart $15 hatchet beat out the Walther, $15. The Smith & Wesson Extraction and Evasion Axe, not designed for axe throwing, all steel, a little bit lighter than the Walther, still held up, and the spike's still on the back. Didn't break. The Calculated Survival Norse Throwing Hatchet, designed for axe throwing. It is a little bit more expensive than the Walther, but way lighter. It's got an aluminum handle, and guess what? The spike didn't break off either. The Browning Shock and Awe, about the same price as the Walther, all steel construction, and guess what? It still has a spike on the back. Steel's great, it's lighter than the Walther, and it's a Tactical Tomahawk. Not designed for axe throwing, but man, this thing beats the Walther all day long. The CRKT Jenny Wren, as you guys know, I have beat the hell out of this thing. Designed by Ryan Johnson of RMJ Tactical, it's a Tactical Tomahawk. It is a great flyer, made of all steel, a little bit more expensive than the Walther, but guess what? The spike's still on there, the steel held up, and I beat the shit out of it. And it's way lighter than the Valther too. The Model 1 from American Tomahawk Company. What a great flyer this is. Now it's way more expensive than the Valther, but it has a nylon handle and it takes some damn abuse. I guess that's kind of designed for axe throwing, but guess what? The spike's still on there. Holds up very well. The Cold Steel Recon Hawk, not my favorite at all. I did not like this, but guess what? It's a little bit cheaper than the Valther. It's lighter than the Valther. The steel holds up, the spike's still on, and it wasn't that bad after I made my modifications to it. But to be honest with you, even though I don't like the Recon Hawk, I'd rather have this than the Valther. And the Kova Blackthorn. Now, I will tell you guys this, when I originally got this, it was not designed for axe throwing. They didn't say anything about axe throwing on their website. Ironically enough, after I reviewed it, they went back in and changed it and said that you could throw it. But originally, it was a Tactical Tomahawk, not designed for axe throwing. It's a little bit more expensive than the Valther, made of all steel. Steel holds up, the spike's still in the back, it didn't break off, and it's lighter than the Valther. I'm literally sitting here thinking in my head all the axes I've done reviews on or I've thrown over the years that were not designed for axe throwing that were better than the Valther. I mean, Grensfors for one. All the carpenter's axes I've used for axe throwing and beat the hell out of and still are throwing to this day. The large carving axe, the broad axes, the forest axe, small forest axe. Remember I did a review on that one? That was a great flyer, held up. The Scandinavian axe that we did the red dye on, I've thrown that one a bunch, it's still going. Talk about council tool, the Flying Fox, the double bit saddle axe, the Hudson Bay pattern camp axe. And that's not even including all the ones I've given away as free giveaways to you guys. I've beat the hell out of those in a review and then turn around and gave them to y'all to throw. We could go through the Husqvarna carpenter's axes that weren't designed for axe throwing that you can beat the hell out of. The point is I could go on and on and on and on. The Kings County Tools Tomahawk hatchet, all the cold steel ones that I've done reviews on. I forgot about cold steel. I'm going to hear about it from you guys if I don't mention the cold steel tomahawks that are way better than the Valther, the ones with wooden handles. Guys, I don't know how many cold steel reviews I've done. The Trail Hawk and the Norse Hawk and all those. And the handles don't break. They're not the best fitting ones, but they don't break. That would be better than that Valther. That weigh probably about the same, if not less. Actually, if you cut the Trail Hawk down to 15 inches, I remember it's 1 pound and 3 ounces, which is 6 ounces lighter than the Valther. And I would take that Trail Hawk all day long over that Valther. So to tell me that if you want quality and you want abuse to get a throwing axe, and if you want something that's not going to take abuse to get a Tactical Tomahawk, that doesn't make sense. People relate tactical most of the time to hold up. Now, I know you said earlier that sometimes it's different depending on your application. That is very true. But I'm going to tell you something right now. We're talking about axes, and I don't know of anybody out there that wants a Tactical Tomahawk that won't take abuse. To me, that just doesn't make any sense. Again, I'm not trying to hate on Devin all that much, but the point is that I'm trying to say that when you say stuff like that, it goes against everything that I've proven on my channel. At least I think it does. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I think I've done a very good job showing you guys axes, hatchets, and tomahawks that hold up and which ones don't. And they don't have to be a certain kind of axe to be able to be thrown, to hold up to abuse, and do what they're supposed to do. I've never heard of anyone tell me that a Tactical Tomahawk is not made for abuse. I'm sorry, I've never heard that.
I've seen toy axes that have held up better, honestly.
Yeah. Like I said, I've never heard that. Moving into the next comment, I'm kind of looking down here, and the comment was made by a gentleman by the name of Every Man for Us All. And don't take this comment as criticism. I don't take it as criticism. It may be, but it's a great comment. We can agree to disagree. I know people are going to say, well, you kind of just attacked Devin there. I wasn't trying to. He came a little snarky at me, and I'm coming back at him a little snarky. I just don't think that what he said in reality kind of adds up. It just doesn't. But me and Devin, I hope you stay, man. I really do. I hope I can prove to you what I'm trying to say. And I hope you stick around and watch these rest of these videos this year for these Tactical Tomahawks so I can show you that I can get ones that weigh just as much as the Valther, if not cheaper, or less weight than the Valther, that are just as at the same price point or maybe cheaper that you can beat the hell out of, and they'll outdo that Volther all day long. Just saying. So every man for us all, this is the comment he made. I mean, really, are any of these big name gun branded imported edge tools the cream of the crop as far as quality goes? Question mark. Who's really that surprised here? Yeah, man, I agree with you. Now, I don't have a ton of experience dealing with pew companies, axes, hatchets, and tomahawks, just a couple. But I will say the M&P Extraction and Evasion Axe by Smith & Wesson is pretty decent for the money. It's around like 50 some dollars. Like I told you guys in the previous video when I did the axe throwing record attempt, I threw this one. I sharpened it up and threw it. It was a little heavy for me at 200 feet. But man, at triple rotations and in, this thing is great. It flies really well. And I beat the heck out of this thing. Guys, I took this out. I've cleaned it up a little bit since, but I took this out and threw this and it was bouncing all over the ground. It was hitting crazy stuff into the ground, and it just took not only the abuse from the review, but then from that record attempt out there, just throwing this thing all crazy. My brother threw it all crazy and it held up. No bending of anything. The edge is still pretty decent. It held up very well for a Pew company's axe. And see, this is why I'm upset about Volther, because I know that Smith & Wesson made that, and that's pretty decent for the money. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but you know, it's only 50 some dollars, and it did its job. And I think it would still do its job if I took it outside and threw it now. The reason why I bring up some of these axes, hatchets, and tomahawks to do reviews on, of course, you guys know that you guys request them a lot of times, or I'll have them on a wish list, or they're on sale or whatever, or they're tactical or tacti-cool, is because I want to see what they can do. I know there's a lot of times where people are like, yeah, you can look at that and tell it's crap, but that's not necessarily true all the time, right? I know a lot of people give me some flack because I always say that just because you have an axe handle that's dense, that has vertical grain orientation and has no grain run out, just because it has that doesn't mean it's going to be a great handle. And that sometimes I've gotten handles before that were just crazy looking, and those things were tanks. They held up to all kinds of abuse. And that's the point that I'm trying to make is that we don't actually know. Yes, the stigma you are talking about is usually true. You know, you go somewhere and you see those Winchester knives at Walmart and you're like, man, that thing is going to hold an edge for like 5 seconds. I get that. I get that. And I'm not hating on anybody that's got Winchester knives. I'm just saying I get what he's saying. And the point that I am trying to make in this by bringing out your comment, which I responded to you, is I'm trying to bring awareness to that. It may not, but I'm doing my best because I want to get companies going, man, all these people are talking about this axe, hatchet, or tomahawk that we made that's not great. They love our pews or whatever. They love the main product we make, but this thing just isn't holding up, and people are saying that they want something better. And like I've proven to you guys before, price doesn't always mean better. That's subject to you and what your expectations are in your axe, hatchet, or tomahawk. A lot of times I go outside and I throw, what, $400 axes, and I'll throw all the way down to $15 to $30 axes. And sometimes I have just as much fun with a $30 axe as I do a $400 axe. It's in the eyes of the beholder, right? Yes, more so than not, the more expensive ones are going to probably hold up a little more with edge quality. Maybe the grips are a little bit better. The design's a little bit better. I will say that usually speaking, when you start getting up in price, the designs are better. And 2 of the most expensive axes I've done this year have been some of the best throwing axes I've ever thrown. One of them isn't even designed for axe throwing. But the point is that I'm trying to get awareness to these companies like Volther to go, hey, how is Smith & Wesson making a good axe and we're not, and we're at the same price point? And that's what I'm kind of looking at here. The years I've been throwing axes, the amount of axes I've gone through. I mean, I have thrown axes that we haven't even done reviews on, that I've got a ton of experience with, that we haven't even talked about yet. So there is some knowledge in my head that I'm bringing to some of these axes that I already know about. And maybe we'll get to some of those in the future. But what I'm saying is that I come from a standpoint of having some knowledge on what axes should and shouldn't be doing. Yes, there are times where a good chopping axe will not hold up to throwing. Does that mean it's a bad axe? Of course not. You guys remember the Council Tool Boys axe? That thing broke very fast in my review. And what did I say? It's not designed for axe throwing, and it's a wooden handle. It's going to happen. And that's usually more indicative to chopping axes that are like 26 inches and longer. You get that heavy head on that long wooden handle and you hit that thing just right, that handle will split right in half. That's just the name of the game with felling axes. It really is. There's not really much you can do about that unless you want to throw a Fiskars. There's not really much you can do about that. And I am logical in some of this stuff, guys. I don't expect some of these axes to go out and perform. And when they don't perform, and I know they're not, I tell you that, right? I think the only reason why I brought so much attention to the Valther is because this was the second Tomahawk that broke. And I had a lot of expectations for that because of the collar that was on it. I really did. But I'll be honest with you, had the handle broke, I probably wouldn't have been as agitated, I guess you could say, about it had the spike held up. When the spike broke, that just to me added more issues for me. It really did. There was no reason why that spike should have broke. And like I showed you guys, there was discoloration on the back of that spike, which I think that's why it broke. But I digress. Doesn't matter if you use a throwing axe. It doesn't matter if you use a chopping axe. It doesn't matter if you use a tactical tomahawk. I don't care what they're labeled. You can use them however you want. And I expect, after all these reviews I've done, guys, over 3 years, and then before social media, you guys know that I keep it real. The World Axethrowing League axe handles, right? When I did 1 or 2 of those, the handles broke. And I said, hey, you know, they're wooden axe handles. This happens. And I normally don't give companies a bunch of crap if a wooden axe handle breaks. It's just part of the game. You don't know what a wooden axe handle is going to do, right? But when we buy like 6, 7, 8 World Axethrowing League axes and 6 out of the 8 handles break, there's a pattern there. And then we go back and do research and find out what everybody else is saying, and we start really getting into the nitty-gritty on those things. We start finding out that the way that they're hafted, the handles are light as a feather, guys. I mean, it's just like holding on there's no density to those handles at all, and they're extremely dry. Thanks to the help of you giving me some information on them, we've kind of determined that they're just not great handles. That's just the way it is. But that doesn't mean that the Helco Rhineland hatchet handle ain't going to hold up, because it did, right? On this one, same handle here. It's a little shorter, but it's the same handle. I just cut it down a lot for the AX1, but it's the same handle. Look how much shorter I got that thing. Anyway, what I'm saying is that don't put yourselves in a box. Don't think, oh, I got to get this or I have to get that for it to hold up. Every single time I throw axes, it is something different. And that's why I love throwing axes. I'll get a broad axe from Gränsfors and cut it all up and go, I wonder if this thing's going to fly well. And not only does it fly well, but it holds up. And I didn't even haft that thing, guys. That is the hafting job from Gränsfors. Walk away and say, tactical tomahawks aren't made for abuse. They're made for maneuverability and lightweight. Okay. If that's what you want to take it as, cool. But you're missing out. But you're missing out with that mindset. You really are. Because there are tactical tomahawks out there that will take abuse, that won't break, that are lightweight, and they'll do their job. They will. And you don't have to spend a ton of money. Not all the time, anyway. So, that's just my opinion, guys. Thanks, Devin. I really appreciate the comment. And thanks, every man, for us all. I appreciate your comment too. And everybody else, I responded to you guys in the comment section. Like I said, I wasn't trying to hate on Devin. I really wasn't. But I really need to address that comment, because that is exactly why I started social media. That was one of the reasons why. I always get people saying, well, that's not designed for axe throwing. Why are you throwing the Helco Rhineland hatchets? That was one thing that I always heard. One thing that I always heard was, before was, why are you throwing this? It's not designed for axe throwing. What's designed for axe throwing? Please tell me what's designed for axe throwing. If you're going to say it's a straight handle with thin cheeks and a thin bit design, well, how many times do I got to throw these things to show you can do it? We're going on 3 years now. 3 years of me throwing work axes, bushcraft axes, tactical tomahawks, hatchets, weird stuff, shovels, the cold steel Spetsnaz shovel, threw the hell out of that thing. And I even went back to 200 feet and threw for you guys. I don't know how much more you want me to do. I mean, I'm going to continue to make content. I'm just saying, I don't know how much more I can show you guys. I'm going to keep doing reviews and showing you these great axes and some of these that are not. But yes, some of these are not designed for what I do. And you cannot like the way that I do reviews. Totally understand that. Some people are going to say that doesn't show what the axe is capable of. And I would say that in some instances you are correct. I don't use them for chopping. So it may not be a great flyer, but it could be a good chopping axe. It may not hold up to my hard abuse. That's true. But it could hold up to just chopping. I agree with that, especially with wooden handles, which is why I don't give wooden handles a bad rap. Because there are times where I've had an axe that held up over 2 or 3 years of chopping, and then I went outside and threw it and the handle broke. But I knew it was a good chopping axe and the handle held up. That's why I give wooden handles a little bit more leniency. I know that some of these axes are not designed for axe throwing, but we all throw them. I talk to you guys about this all the time. You're telling me all the axes that you're throwing and the hatchets and everything else that you're throwing that's not designed for axe throwing that have held up and been great. Do you really think that a tactical tomahawk is not designed for abuse? I would love to hear somebody tell me that they don't think a tactical tomahawk is designed for abuse, other than Devin. Because everything I've ever seen about tactical tomahawks says the complete opposite. Especially when a lot of your tactical tomahawks have pry bars down at the bottom, glass breakers. Usually, most of them that hold up really well are all steel, which tells me that they want them to take abuse, right? That's just my opinion, though. Not all of them are made all steel, but think about it. Winkler, RMJ Tactical, Tops Knives, Rare Breed or Half Breed, the Australian ones, they're all steel. And there's a reason for that, because they want them to take abuse. I can understand getting a glass-filled nylon handle if it's going to be like a one-time use. Devin, I'll give you that. If it's something that you pack up that you're going to use it one time and expect not to bring it back with you, or if it's just going to be a one-time thing, then yeah, maybe I could get that. But technically, when you go out, you don't know what you're running into, right? You don't know what you're going to run into. If you're going to talk tactically, if you're going to talk tactics, you know, unless you're going out on a certain thing, but ops always go sideways. Most of the time they do. Even if you have contingency plans in place, you could be on, on C, D, or E. You just never know what's going to happen. And I would not take something with me that has an already known flaw with it into any type of tactical position or tactical situation. I mean, you can take that Vother with you, but I've got a million other ones I'd rather take. Just my opinion. Thanks for all the support, guys. I really appreciate it. And remember, it's always for the love of these axes, hatchets, and tomahawks. But until next time, see ya.